the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, and you're listening to Chris and Mike on Wrestleshock.
I'm coming to your town in my pink Cadillac. I'm just a Honky Tonk Man.
He's a honky tonk man.
I'm just a Honky Tonk Man.
He's a honky tonk man.
I'm just a Honky Tonk Man. I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad. I pick a mean guitar, I wear a blue suede shoes. You ought to hear me sing the snakeskin blues. I'm just a Honky Tonk Man.
He's a honky tonk man.
I'm just a Honky Tonk Man.
He's a honky tonk man.
I'm just a Honky Tonk Man. I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad.
Hello guys, welcome to another fun-filled edition of Wrestleshock, and as the title suggests, we have a very special interview. I'm joined once again, it seems forever that we've actually done this, by Mike Lacey. Hi Mike!
Hey, I'm here this time.
Yeah, it's been like a month since we talked. I'm like the jealous husband he didn't have. That's not, oh no, I should edit that out. No, that's fine, I'll just leave it in. But obviously we're interviewing somebody that Mike personally likes, and after the interview all I could say is, wow, you guys are in for a treat. Mike, you can introduce said guest.
Well, we had been talking about the Intercontinental Championship, and today we have the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man.
That is correct. We're not going to... The interview runs for about an hour and 15 minutes, so we don't want to blather on too much. But Mike, straight off the bat, just very quickly, what would be, if somebody was to say to you, Honky Tonk Man, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it a WrestleMania match? Is it just his music? What's the thing that strikes you straight away?
For me, it was always the music. The fact that he actually performed his own entrance music, and nobody else really did at the time. It just made it stand out to me above everybody else's.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, like one of your questions is to do with his music, which is very apropos. But yeah, just the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's very candid, is one way of looking at it, brother, is what we shall say. But yeah, I take it, Mike, this is one off the checklist of people you've wanted to talk to for quite some time.
Yeah, right off the bucket list there.
Okay, awesome. Well, without further ado, we shall let you listen to this, and the next podcast featuring Mike and myself will feature who was the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. By the way, before I go on any further, the winner of the WWE Best of Raw vs. SmackDown 2011 Blu-ray is Tom Williams. So, bravo, Tom. If you would like to send me your address, I will post that out very quickly. So, I think we'll just say goodbye now. So, bye. Say bye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
No. I enjoy the interview, folks.
And the man who refers to himself as the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, and I think a lot of people will dispute that one. Of course, I'm referring to the Honky Tonk Man, who's never short for words, and he is accompanied, of course, by his manager, Colonel Jimmy Hart.
I think I should give him a new song.
No, not yet,
A
Honky.
1990s version.
No.
Well, it's a new year, and I want to give them something.
No, Honky, listen. Let the people that come to Memphis, Tennessee, Honkyland USA is there, the big amusement park Honky just built. It's over the holidays. Everybody come down. We got free Honky hamburgers, Honky hot dogs, and Honky cream for your hair. That's right.
And it'll make you stand up just like
Beautiful,
this.
Honky.
It'll give you that look you need. It'll give you the look you need to be the greatest of all time. It'll give you the look you need to go to the top in the World Wrestling Federation. But you might have to have a little help. You might have to be multi-talented. And you see, this is where the Honky Tonk Man's got the edge on everybody. He lines them up, and oh yeah, I knock them down. I sing, I dance, oh yeah, and I play the guitar. I'm going to play it for him.
Greatest of all time, baby.
Hello and welcome back from the break. As you would have heard, Mike and I were talking about a certain individual who seemed to shake, rattle and roll with us all in the World Wrestling Federation, and the man is here. Please introduce yourself, sir.
I don't think I need an introduction. I think they can understand me just from my language and my voice. But I'm the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man.
Sir, it is an absolute honour and privilege to sit down and talk to you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to sit down and talk with Mike and myself. We'll have some questions lined up to you, but just once again, thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it, and believe me, there's no question you cannot ask me that I cannot answer, and if I can't, answer it truthfully, I'll tell a lie.
Okay, just don't tell us you're telling a lie, and that's fine then. Obviously, you've just said there now that the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time is the Honky Tonk Man. This sentence is always mentioned with your name. Was winning the Intercontinental title the moment you knew you made it in the World Wrestling Federation?
No, not really, because I knew early on. I knew when I went there, and when I got called up to go there, and I interviewed with Vince McMahon. I told him in the very beginning in the interview that if he gives me a chance, I can sell tickets, and if I don't sell some tickets, then I'll pack my bags and be on my merry way. And that was our handshake deal that we had, and I spent 6 or 7 months, I guess, toiling along and doing underneath wrestling with some really good guys like S.D. Jones and Lanny Poffo and different individuals along the way, and that's how they kind of let you come into the thing and break yourself in with the fans, is to go around for 5 or 6 months and just do opening matches and second, third match on the card, or the popcorn match, which we call the intermission match, where nobody got to see you, because they're all up at the popcorn stand, and while you're having your match, nobody's in the stands watching. But I did that knowing that I had been with all these other guys, everyone in the locker room. I had been around at some point in my career. I had been in the wrestling business. A lot of fans don't realize this. I know I might be answering a question that should be a short answer with a long answer, but to get to the gist of everything, I had been in the wrestling business for 12 years, I think, 12, maybe 14 years before I went to WWE, and I had wrestled with or had been around all of the guys in the locker room, and we were all had at one time or another been top main event talent somewhere across North America or around the world. So, I knew I was just as good as anybody else there, and everyone else there was just as good as me.
Great. Mike, your question?
Still to this day.
Say something, Mike, before we throw dirt on you.
Still to this day, you hold the record for the longest Intercontinental title reign at 64 weeks. What's your opinion of the way the companies like WWE hotshot the titles around these days? Do you think that it devalues the title at all?
Oh, it's totally devalued everything. I think it's devalued their even the talent itself. There's no way for a young fella now to gain any momentum unless you're a John Cena that's selling tons of merchandise and things of that nature, because they don't really give you a chance to. They throw you in the lion's den. Let me say this: it's like the old Romans did when they would pitch somebody in with the lions. It's either you have to swim or die, and it's so hard because, like I said, I started by having 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of TV intro stuff before I showed up on television, and then when I was on TV, it was those short, what we call job matches, where some local guys would come in and for 3 minutes make us look good, make us look like stars, and then for the next 6 months you'd travel around to each of the towns and have a 10 or 15 minute match and get all your stuff in, make yourself look good, get over with the fans in those towns, and then the next time you were a little higher on the card and did better. Nowadays they throw these kids out there on Raw right out of the training facility they have, and I don't understand it. I don't know how. I'm not a script reader, and I don't read scripts, and I don't do very well at things like that. These kids have to read a script. They have to script their matches. They have to practice the match before. At 3:00 in the afternoon, they go through the whole show before they start the show at 7 or 8 o'clock. And to me, if you don't keep Bruno kept the belt for what, 10, 12, 15 years, and Hogan had the championship belt for 10 years. If you don't keep those things and build a legacy off of that, then I don't think you're ever going to attract or get the people's attention or have the fans gravitate towards you. And yes, the belt's switching around now. I mean, nobody even knows who has what belt, and it was so devalued when China won the belt, and then of course Stone Cold threw it in the river, the Intercontinental I'm talking about, and then the ladies champion Alundra Blaze, she takes the belt to WCW and drops the ladies championship belt in the garbage can, and things like that totally devalue it.
Yeah, it really seems more like a prop nowadays.
Yeah, I don't even think they even use the belts as props to mean it. I don't think it has any meaning. The only time that I thought the meaning was beginning to be brought back was with that Santino Marella thing, where he was going, I've had the belt for 9 a week. I was only and I now I've got 12 a week, and I thought that was a really good piece of work, and I wanted to, and I ran this by them. Of course, it fell on deaf ears, like most of the things I had told them in the past. But I ran it by them. I said, let's run this thing all the way to WrestleMania, and then, he wins the match, and I bow down and say, look, you're the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. But they never wanted to take it that far, and I thought he would have been a great champion.
Yeah. Yeah, as Mike said, like the likes of the tag belts is a totally different kettle of fish now as to what it was back then, and it's the same with the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh yeah, and it would have gave the belt credibility. It would have definitely given it credibility. It would have made it mean something again, and all those things, and it was all for naught. He goes over to England and loses the belt after all this Honkamania, whatever he was doing. Thing, he loses in 13 seconds to Steve Regal, and it was like, okay, this whole program's dead.
Well, speaking of tag teams, obviously you were in a tag team with Greg the Hammer Valentine called Rhythm and Blues.
No, let me correct you. That was
Okay.
I was Rhythm and he was Snooze.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, was Valentine your ideal tag partner? So maybe judging by that answer, maybe no. I thought, oh my goodness, I haven't done my homework right. What haven't I done?
We when we were put together, and tag team is a very important situation to be in, because you have to have a contrast in characters, and that, to me, it was a perfect contrast. I mean, here I was. I'm the show business guy, the rhythm and singing and dancing and the guitar and all the flashy suits, and here he is with long stringy blonde hair and trying to be a beach bum and just walk out, and he was like the bull. He was like the bull in the match, and I was the show business guy. So the contrast was very, very good. And then when he had the black hair, the people really, really hated us. I mean, of course they hated me anyway, but I mean, the hatred toward him was so much more than what they had as the Dream Team. But he really did not want to do the black hair thing. He says, hey, I hate this black hair. I can't get any girls. I said, what do you mean girls? You're married. Why do you need girls? I said, I've had black hair for 25 years. It hadn't stopped me from getting girls. But, I mean, actually, the truth be known, we had a meeting with Vince McMahon, and we were going to get the tag belts. We were going to take the tag belts, Rhythm and Blues, from the Hart Foundation, and we were going to be the tag champs. And a couple days after the meeting, he secured the services of the Road Warriors, and at that point in time, we became behind the 8-ball, not the 8-ball that Jake used, but oh boy. But anyway, we became, like on the back side of the last tit hanging, and so that was it for us.
Oh man.
This
And
is
just-
internet. This is internet radio, right?
We're good.
You guys forgot to tell me that. So,
That's okay. Don't worry.
but it's like I said. Then we were passed over, and I guess with the Road Warriors deal was they were to get the belts, and they ended up with the being tag champions. And Greg and I were split apart after that, and we had a little short run with Bushwhackers, which was good. It was funny, and we had fun doing it. And after that, Greg, they released him, and then they sent me over doing commentary with Daffy Duck, Piper. You couldn't get a word in edgewise with him, so and Vince and myself and Piper, and it was not a good situation, so I just finally drifted away.
Now, just as your Intercontinental title run was very memorable, so was the match that ended it. Can you share kind of what went into the decision to drop the belt to the Ultimate Warrior in the fashion in which it occurred?
It was a long planned out thing, simply because Hogan had given notice that he wanted to go and be, oh yeah, brother, I'm going to Hollywood, brother. Brother.
That was a spot-on impersonation there. Spot on.
Yeah. Hey, brother, I got plastic hair, brother. We have fun with it on our radio show whenever we do our Shake, Rattle, and Roll. We have some funny segments, and I like to, take a little shot at people every now and again, like Ric Flair and his saggy ass. I'm sorry. This is real radio. I'm sorry, but anyway, it was the thing with Randy and I, and for me to lose the belt on that big television show. My handshake deal with Vince at the time we met and talked and everything was, I only had I had two requests, and one was, if you put me in a position and I sell tickets, pay me. And he says, yes, I will. And I said, if you don't, then I'll pack my bags and be gone, which was a fair thing to do. And I said, but I would just keep me good on TV, which meant no TV jobs. Do not beat me up on TV, because back in my era, losing on television was a death wish. To be beaten on TV was like now. It was like the worst thing that can happen to you. When they start beating you on television, you might as well just pack your bags and leave, because there's nothing left for you. And so it came down to that big Saturday night show or Friday night show they had on NBC, and 30 million people watching it, and brought me into the office, and Randy and Liz, and for an hour they talked about everything they were going to do with Randy and Liz, and then looked at me and said, and then Randy will come off with a big elbow on you, 1, 2, 3, and Jimmy Hart will pull you out of the ring, and you'll never be seen again. And I took never to be seen again as I was getting fired. So I thought about it for about 45 minutes when I left the building, and I went and I called my wife and I told her, and my next phone call was to the not WCW at that time, but it was the NWA with Jim Barnett was in charge down in Atlanta, and I called there and talked to Jim and told him what was going on. He said, absolutely don't do that on television. You better than that. Because Jim was from the old school also, and had, was the premier promoter of all time. And he says, don't do anything till you hear from me. I'll call you back in 20 minutes. And he had made a couple calls and called Jimmy Crockett and some other people and said, when are you home again? We'll fly you down to the Bahamas. We'll have a meeting and get this all settled. But whatever you do, do not lose that belt on television. And Jimmy Hart talked me into, I told him, and he talked me into calling Vince and saying, please, please don't do this. Call Vince first. Give him a chance. And when I called Vince and said, I'm not dropping this belt on television, I've already talked to Jim Barnett. Holy cow, he started cursing me like a madman.
Thank you for not putting the swear words in there. I do appreciate that.
And you know what? Years later, when he was doing the match with Stone Cold Steve Austin, he actually used my verbiage that he and I had on the phone, where I told him that if he wanted that belt, he would have to come to Memphis and beat me for it, and if he's man enough. Otherwise, it'll be sitting on the mantle over my fireplace. And he used that line with Stone Cold and about the belt being over the mantle at his fireplace. And when I heard it, I said, man, this guy's got a memory. Obviously, that stuck in his mind, and it stuck in his mind there for the last 20-something years, because they don't call me very often for stuff anymore. But no, back to the. I mean, that was a long story to get to the short answer. Back to the Warrior thing. That was my idea for the short match. I remember Jesse Ventura telling me very early in my career, once I had the belt for a while and I was doing really good, he said, when it comes time to drop the belt, he said, do it really quick, get out, stay gone for a year, come back, and then you can start all over again. And that was how we did it back in the old days. And to me, I thought, not only was it the right way to do it, and when I ran it across by Vince, and I said, if we're going to do this, it needs to be short, fast. Not that the Warrior, at that point in time, he was not the greatest wrestler in the world in the ring. I mean, he developed as time went along, but at that point in time, it was best for him to come out, beat me really quick. It was best for me to lose really fast after all those months, and it was best for the company because they needed a quick superstar, and that's what it made him.
Okay, cool. Obviously, you mentioned there Jimmy Hart was your manager. How influential was it having probably one of the best managers and most recognizable managers in your corner?
Jimmy was there, and Jimmy and I had worked together in Memphis years before, so we had a chemistry, and I knew the chemistry would work with him, and that's very important also when I talked about tag teams being, one being different from the other, but there has to be a chemistry even with the tag team. And Jimmy and I had a chemistry back in Memphis that had worked, and I knew it would work in WWE now, but because he was doing the music thing and he had the megaphone with the musical notes, and here I come in, I'm dressed in a jumpsuit, I've got the guitar, so it was only natural. We were sitting on a plane one day, and Hogan was across from us, and he said, you might need a manager, and I don't think a Bobby Heenan or somebody's the right kind. I said, right here, Jimmy Hart. Heck, why not him? He says, that's a great idea. I think you guys would do good together. And from after that, because he was always close to Vince and was able to go and kind of pander his whatever thoughts and ideas he wanted, and Vince would, of course, listen to him like Vince listens to John Cena, of course, and Triple. And I mean, when you're making $15-20 million a year and you're the top guy, of course Vince is going to listen to you. So the next day they put Jimmy with me, and we clicked. We really did. And I have to say this: Jimmy Hart is the hardest working guy that I know. He will be up at 4 a.m. He'll be up at 3 a.m. if he has to do a radio or TV interview. He pushed me. He got me up and drug my carcass out of bed a lot of when I said, man, I don't want to do this, but we were up and doing radio and TV shows all across the country, and it kept us visual. It kept us in the public eye, and that's what he did for me, and for that I'm forever grateful.
Brilliant.
That's very cool. Now, you had a match versus Jake the Snake Roberts at WrestleMania 3. What was it like? What was it like to be a part of that historic record-setting event? What was it like performing in front of 93,000 plus fans?
I've been asked that question I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's not the first time. But
Mike.
you know, a lot of guys might tell you, or you've interviewed them and said, "Oh, it was exhilarating. It was the greatest event." I mean, it was a great event. It was a great part of wrestling history. I don't really sit around and watch old videotape of it or anything like that by any means, but to me and to most of us, we were so dead tired. I mean, we didn't have the luxury these kids have now where they fly them in a day early and let them lay in a hotel and do nothing, go to the gym, go to the tanning bed. We worked the night before. We wrestled somewhere. There was shows running. And we flew into Detroit and did that show. We had been on the road for 50, 60 days. And after that show was over, we had our 2 days or so of TV tapings that went from 11 o'clock in the morning to midnight. And after that show and the TV tapings, we had 3 days off. All we wanted to do was get some clean clothes, man. I mean, that's if you go back and look, I think if you really looked at the guys as they were carting us and bringing us out to the ring and everything, you could just see on our faces that we were tired. We were just really worn out. And, you know, to say, hey, there's 90-something thousand people out there or it's going to be sold out, we knew it was going to be a big show. I mean, it was not – and we had been on shows that had 60, 70,000 and 30,000 every night of the week. So that was not a big deal. I mean, to a lot of fans, you say, well, that's the biggest event of all time. They'll never break that record, which is probably true. But from a fan's perspective, it was probably a great show. But for us, it wasn't. It was like, man, let's just get done with this thing, get these TV tapings over. You know, all of it. We all smelled like we'd been on the road for 50 days. So.
Oh.
and the sad thing about that's why I never want to look back at that tape and see it is, you know, half the guys, most of the guys that's on that WrestleMania 3 they're all dead.
It is sad. It's really, really sad to see that. So it is. If people weren't familiar with your work in the World Wrestling Federation, if they've been living under a rock for some 20 plus years, what match would the Honky Tonk Man pick for them to watch and why?
Oh, gosh, it would have to be some of those matches with Macho Man. I think that's Saturday night main event that we had where I pushed Liz down was one of mine and Randy's best matches that we had. Now, mind you, we had matches every night for almost a year, and I loved being in the ring with him. He was a professional. We weren't friends by any means. We were business associates. I mean, when I heard the news of Randy's passing, it really shocked me to think that gosh, oh yeah, Macho Man, it's space is the place, yeah. You know, I would never get a chance to run across him again and say hello, but I guess that those were the most memorable matches because we had so many. Now, Jake, you mentioned Jake in WrestleMania 3. Of course, you know, Jake's openly admitted that of his demons that he was battling, and you know, Jake wasn't around for him and I to have a lot of matches. Jake and I have had more matches on the independent circuit than we ever had in WWE, and I loved working with Jake. He was a great draw. He still is. He's a great name in the business. We worked together. I mean, our styles fit each other very well. So did mine and Randy's. Randy was a little faster and wanted to do a little bit more acrobatic, high spot kind of stuff than I was really like to do. But we worked it out together where we could make it work for both of us. Steamboat was there again. He didn't stick around, and I had great matches after I lost the belt to Warrior. I ended up having a lot of good matches with the Warrior for about the next 4 or 5 months. I think I was with him just to do return matches, and Superfly Jimmy Snuka and I we clicked together like macaroni and cheese. I mean, it was, we just really worked well together, and I enjoyed working with Jimmy.
Great. I was going to say, is that right, brother? But I thought, no, but then I'll say it now. Anyway.
Nah, that's hey, brother, I said brother all the time. Oh, that was one time they had mentioned bringing. They had Superstar Billy Graham doing commentary with Gorilla Monsoon, and they says, "Yeah, well, maybe we'll get Jimmy Valiant in here." And Bobby Heenan comes to me. He says, "Can you imagine how many times those two guys will say, brother, hey, brother, 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 hey, brother, brother." That's 4 times than Hogan can say, brother, 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 brother. I hope Hogan doesn't want to sue me because I say brother. I had heard, now this is on this ridiculous type nonsense, that Hogan was going to or threatened to, which mind you, was going nowhere other than him wasting more of his money that he don't have.
Oh, I don't think Hogan listened to this show, so you're all right there.
Anyway, I guess there was a car dealership or a car dealer that did a commercial in Florida, and he was going, "Hey, brother, we're cutting prices, brother. Brother, 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 we got cars on sale, brother." So he was actually sent them a letter of cease and desist or something. Maybe he didn't.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, don't say brother.
Sorry.
Yeah,
sister, then there.
Okay, yeah. Oh, mom.
He has it trademarked.
Yeah, right. Brother, brother, brother. My plastic hair, brother. I'm having another back surgery, brother. I'm leaving the business in a wheelchair, brother. Woo! Could be worse, I guess. You could be Ric Flair. I mean, what a legacy.
Up to a point.
That is the most terrible way to. And I've heard it. A lot of guys wouldn't step forward and say it, but they've told me, and we've talked about it. It's just a terrible way to go out of the business or to be remembered. I mean, now there's nothing the fella can do to rehabilitate himself as far as his legacy goes, because it's so tarnished and so ruined, and it's very sickening, and it's a sad way to do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
Speaking of a legacy, what was it like to be a part of the $1 Million Team at the 1990 Survivor Series? Obviously, that was the debut of The Undertaker. Did you have any idea of the historical impact that match would have on the business and the legend that The Undertaker would become?
Mike, that's a really good question, and I that was the one time, I'm pretty good at I guess, or I used to be, or maybe I'm not, of seeing a gimmick or seeing a guy's persona and say, this is going to work and this is really good. And I looked at that one and I said, this will never, ever get off now. I mean, putting Tombstone, they're dead, put them in a body bag, zip them up. I thought, this will never, ever work. But you know what? It's worked for 20-something years for him. He's, a great guy, obviously a fantastic talent, and was able to make it work. And I think with the addition of Paul Bearer being there and everything, it worked. And it was the one that I said. And Ted and I, we all, and Coco, all of us that was involved in that situation back then, we thought Vince was nuts. We said that this will never work. I mean, who is this guy? Where's he from? And all of a sudden, his eyes are rolled back in his head, and and he's painted all up and then putting people in a body bag. And nope, I said no, it won't work. But I was wrong. Hey, I was wrong. Now, I did know this one right from the very beginning. First time I ever saw Hulk Hogan, I knew right away this guy was made of money. I mean, there was something about just the way that he walked, even in public, just the way he looked. He was made of money, and the next person that I saw that I knew was a breakout and would be a star no matter what was The Rock. I knew this kid had everything. I mean, he had the looks, he had the talk, he could wrestle, he had the body. He was big enough to work with big guys, and he was not so big that he couldn't work with small guys, and he like very much like Hogan. His appeal was to a vast majority of the population, whether it be white, black, Hispanic, Hindu. It did not. I mean, these two guys were like Muhammad Ali and Tiger Woods. They crossed all ethnic barriers and boundaries and had fans. I would have to say Hulk Hogan and Muhammad Ali, Tiger Woods, and there's about 5 or 6, whoever the president is, the Queen of England, there's 5 or 6 people that no matter where you are on our planet, they are going to be recognized. And to me, that is the sign of a superstar. And so, and The Rock fits in that category.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't really agree with you more there. Obviously, The Rock, still a big draw today, even though, 7 years after wrestling, coming back, facing John Cena, and still as popular as ever.
Yeah, and you just mentioned John Cena. That's another one I missed. That's another missed call on my part. I said, hey, some guy coming out trying to be a hip-hop rap guy wearing cut-off jeans and running shoes, and I thought, having a spinneroni belt and whatever they call that thing.
I'll not tell you what I thought on that belt. I really wish we would just keep it the way they are.
I mean, it was a missed call on my part. I'd never thought that one would work either. I said, this guy's going nowhere with this. But now he's a bigger star than Hogan or any of them, so I was wrong again.
Speaking of WrestleMania 6, you were driven to the ring in style via a pink Cadillac driven by Diamond Dallas Page. Do you still call upon DDP to drive you around, or is it something you still rib him about to this day?
No, I don't see Diamond that often. I saw him this past year at the Wrestle Reunion or one of those things. I think it was in Miami or Toronto. Toronto, I saw him, and we laugh about it and talk about it, and excuse me, I've always told him, there again, here's a guy who wanted and loved the business so bad that no one worked as hard as he did to make it in this business. And he actually drove that car from Tampa all the way to Toronto. Why they made him do that, why they didn't just get a car in Toronto, I think it was their way of playing some little silly game with somebody. And he thought by doing that, it might enhance his ability to get a job opportunity. And it didn't happen. It didn't come for him. And he went back and he kept training, he kept plugging along, and he finally got a break, and he did very well. And to me, my hat's off to him, and he's just a great person.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Now, in the mid-'90s, a lot of the WWE superstars made the jump to WCW. Maybe can you talk a little bit about your time there?
Oh gosh, this is a family show. I thought you didn't. My time there was. I tell people they say, what was the song you had in WCW? I said, well, I wasn't there long enough to learn the words. So, but anyway, Eric Bischoff, for some reason, told me the very first day I met him, he said, I've never liked your character. I never liked your gimmick. The only reason I'm bringing you in is because Jimmy Hart won't leave me alone, and it's the only way to shut him up. So I said, well, I hope, Eric, I can change your mind. And I went straight to the phone. Back then, we didn't have cell phones, but I went to the payphone. I called my wife. I said, I'm not going to be here very long. And she says, well, what have you done now? I said, well, I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything, but the guy that's giving out the contracts and signing the checks says he's not a big fan of mine. So I knew then that I wouldn't be around. And I started off there on a $1,000 a night deal. I didn't have a contract at all. It was $1,000 no matter what I did. Even if they didn't put me on TV, I still got paid. They flew me from Phoenix. I'd fly there, work 3 days or 2 days, and fly back to Phoenix. And then after about 2 weeks, Eric Bischoff didn't come to me and tell me, but Greg Gagne did, because Greg Gagne was working there. Greg Gagne says, I want to tell you, because of your work and everything and what you're doing, you're going to get a raise up to $1,200 a show. I said, okay, great. Any word on the contract? Well, they're not giving out any contracts right now. They're not re-signing anyone. And so I kind of plugged along, and Bischoff had told me when I met with him that he wasn't going to. There were some bad contracts that were there, and they wanted to get rid of some of these big numbers on these contracts that had been given out, and he wasn't going to renew anyone. And as soon as some money became available, I'd get a contract. So I kind of just, like a dog waiting on a bone, with my tongue hanging out, going, maybe I'll get one of these good. Maybe I'll get one of these good contracts. And then Steve Regal, of all people, he and I love him to death. He had heard they weren't going to renew him, and he put the word out to the guy that writes for the newspaper in Miami that does some wrestling column down there or something, that he will be maybe going up north. Well, they immediately re-signed him and gave him double his money, I think. And then they brought in, of course, Hogan, of course, had a contract, and Jimmy Hart had a contract, and myself and Hacksaw Jim Duggan were the only two guys in that whole group of guys that did not have a contract. And my friend Brad Armstrong came by one day, and he says, I have to come by like every 2 weeks just so they see me. I really don't want them to see me because I haven't worked there. They really haven't used me in like 8 months, but my contract's coming up, and I'm not sure if they see me, if they will not renew me or they will. Ended up, he got renewed on his contract, and they didn't use him for another year. He stayed home. So now, once I found out all these things, I was totally disappointed. And then I was working a little program with Johnny B. Bad at the time, Mark Merrill. Mark was a great guy. Nothing against Mark in any way. I remember Arn Anderson or somebody came to me and they said, we really appreciate everything you're doing to help him. He's coming. You're really bringing him along. I said, hey, brother. I said, I'm not here to help him. I'm here to help myself. But anyway, then it came down to they wanted a job on TV for me to put him over on the national television show. And I said, I just can't do that, boys. I said, I'm not on contract. I'm not a contract player. And they said, well, if you don't do this, Bischoff said, if you don't do this, you might as well pack your bag. You'll never get a contract. I said, you know what? I think I'll just pack my bag. And I had a cab waiting, and the music was playing, and I went out the door.
Wow.
That's
Go out
it.
on your own terms.
That's it. And you know what? I look back, and it's I got some money out of it, and I had a friend there. I'm not going to say his name, but they would have a guy come around with a sheet of paper, and you would sign the sheet of paper to get your pay. And he would turn the paper in, and then they would pay us. You get your check like a week later. I would give my friend $200 to sign my name when I wasn't there, and that went on for about 3 months. And he signed my name, and I kept getting checks, and I'd send him a money order every time I got my check. And,
well played, sir.
Yes, very well played until another fellow, I don't want to mention his name, but anyway, I told him about it, and he had someone doing it for him while he was not there. He finally got us caught. We got caught, so that was the end of the paychecks. I mean, this could have went on for a long time, They had a guy, David Penzer, and if you ever interview him, he'll tell you, I was walked around with a pad and a pencil, and I'd lay the pad down, and you guys sign this that you were here today, and Heck, when I wasn't there, I had someone signing for me. So, thank you, Eric Bischoff. I'm glad you fired me. I made more money after I left there, after you fired me, than I made when I was there.
Yeah, I think a certain Stone Cold Steve Austin kind of did the same as well.
I think so. Yeah, it was it was just a place where there were so many, and I've read it the other day. There were so many little different cliques going on with, there was this little clique over here, there was a Hogan clique over here, and there was this little WCW clique, and there was this old NWA clique over here, and it was so much infighting and so much skullduggery going on behind the scenes that it wasn't a comfortable place to be. I never felt I should be there. I mean, really, I didn't feel like I should be there, and in fact, I didn't want to be there. I wish I could have collected some of that huge paychecks. People who never made any money in the business at all were making $750,000. Kevin Nash and Hall and those. Kevin will tell you. And I sat down with Kevin once, and we finally had a talk. And he's a real nice guy, and enjoy talking with him. But Kevin should send Jim Ross a little sugar money. Every time Jim Ross would go on Monday Night Raw or something, say, I hear some people from down south that's headed up north. Eric Bischoff thought it was going to be Hall and Nash, and he would give them a raise. They ended up. Kevin ended up staying home the last year of his contract, and didn't go to WWF, which some of the other guys did. He just stayed home. Him and Hall and them, they were making like $1.3, $1.5 million. Just silly money. It was sick. Hogan even told me one time. He said, "Man, this is just a walking ATM machine here, brother."
You made a return at the 2001 Royal Rumble, personally one of my favourite Royal Rumbles, and a certain big red machine.
I wasn't very long.
Yeah, I was going to say, a certain big red machine didn't take you too kindly to your singing, but how did it feel to be in front of a WWE crowd once again?
It was fine. To me, I always enjoy my time there, that I go back or whenever they call me for something that's relevant, that means something. Now, I'm not going to go back and do. I turned them down for this Legends reunion thing where they had Nikolai and they had Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw and Tatanka back a year or so ago. I thought it over and I said, they had those Nexus guys, those young kids that knew nothing about wrestling, and they darn near killed Ricky Steamboat by power slammed him or something and power bombed him. And he had an aneurysm then and spent time in the hospital. And I said, I'm the only guy that's very active out here on the independent circuit. I'm the only guy that's very vocal about the company. They are not going to just let me come out and say hello to the fans and walk away. They're probably going to put me in the ring and have these guys and tell these guys, hey, make it look good out there now. Really lay them in on that old boy. And I felt like, was it a cowardly thing for me to do by saying, no, I'm not going to go and do that? Now, they didn't tell me that's what they were going to do, but I looked at the plane situation they had for me, the transportation part of it. It was not very good at all. 6 a.m. Leaving, middle seats, and I said, nah, I don't have to do that. The independent people are too good to me, and I've made a living for so long on the independent circuit, and the heck with it. I said no.
Now, just on the back of that, what's the biggest difference between the WWE today and the WWF that you were such a huge part of?
I think it's more of a television product as opposed to a wrestling show. It's a television show, not a wrestling show that is on television. I kind of equate it to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl at one time was a football game that was featured on television. Now it's a television show that features a football game. So it's
okay.
It's not a wrestling show now anymore. It's I I don't know. They when they called me to come and induct Coco in the Hall of Fame, and I said, sure, I'd be more than happy to do it. They said, well, do we need to write a script? We'll write a script for you. Is there anything that you can tell us? I said, I don't need a script. I've known the guy for 35 years. We broke in together. We trained together in a barn. They said, well, whatever you say, can you get it done in 3 minutes? I said, sure. But I still had to go and tell them, and they wrote it up, what I was going to say, so that they had a script. But, I mean, I didn't go out there and read a script. I did what I do best, is I work, just tell me what you want, and I can say it.
Well, you've just kind of tied in nicely to my next question. Was you inducted Coco Beware in the WWE Hall of Fame, which must have been a huge thrill for you, as you just said, you know him for so long. Can we ever expect the Honky Tonk Man to go in? And if so, who would you pick to induct you?
Oh, I didn't hit the button to turn myself off. You guys can hear me, can you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you don't get to pick who inducts you.
Right.
Yes, that's, unless you're, I don't even think Mike Tyson had the chance to pick who inducted him, but I know that he had a hefty contract for like $30-something million. Not $30 million, but $30,000 or thereabouts. And maybe the number's not right. Maybe it is, but they give the wrestlers minuscule pennies compared to something like that. I know Hogan was upset because Sylvester Stallone made more money in his 3-minute introduction speech to induct Hogan than Hogan made for the Hall of Fame. So
that's not right, brother.
Yeah, brother. Brother. But you don't have a chance to. I mean, I think the only person that can induct me and do it the proper way would be Jimmy Hart, because we spent so much time together, and he probably knows me better than, I mean, hell, he knows more. He knows more about me than my wife does. But no, I would I go into the Hall of Fame? They asked me here to do it in Phoenix 2 years. 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years, not 3 years. But I was booked in Toronto with and by all now, I guess I should not have told them, but I mentioned I was booked for these Comic Cons with this place called Wizard World, and they do these comic book conventions like Big Comic Con that was in San Diego. They do them all over the country, all over North America, and I mentioned that I had contracted them for 14 shows, and it happened to be that weekend, and I've had a contract and couldn't do it, so I had to turn them down, and lo and behold, now I see where John Cena is going to be at Wizard World in Chicago, and they're putting all the WWE people on Wizard World. So now it kind of just killed me off. I mean, the fans are going to want a John Cena picture, not a Honky Tonk Man picture. So
you'll still get some people going over there. The way to look at it is, you'll get some people like I don't think I've ever heard a Honky Tonk Man sucks chant with when like the let's go see this sucks. So no, I think
that's true. I'm glad you said that, not me. So you get the.
Oh well, yeah, I might as well get myself in some bother. Not that John Cena listen to this show. So anyway, but anyway.
No, I've been very fortunate about the fans have. Even when I went back for the Santino Marella thing, or even when I went back and did that Royal Rumble you talked about. Now, I had done a Royal Rumble a few years before that where I was, in fact, I think it was about the same time or maybe it was when they were doing that rockabilly thing or something. I'm not sure. That was another part of my, and Billy himself will tell you, it was a bad experience for him, bad experience for the both of us. It was something that was destined to be bad. I could see it was. And but when I went back and Kane hits me over the head with a guitar, I mean, the people cheered for Kane to hit me with the guitar. But when I came out of behind the curtain, the fans cheered for me like crazy. And they did with the Santino Marella thing. I mean, I was a good guy, and out here on the independent circuit, I'm the good guy. It's as if people don't even remember other than Andre the Giant, I was probably one of the most hated villains of all time.
But we still love you anyway.
Yeah. And now it's to the point where the fans go, we love these shoot interviews you do. We love the radio show that you guys do, and you don't pull any punches. You kind of tell it like it is. And, a lot of guys, and I'll say this about these RF shoot videos and these other things, a lot of times guys would probably didn't like some things that I said and probably didn't like me. But as time went on, they have all now turned themselves, prostituted themselves for the money, and went and did these shoot videos like I did. So now nobody's got a problem with me.
But that's what a lot of us want nowadays, is to hear an honest, an honest, recollection of events and honest thoughts. I think that's one of the big reasons why CM Punk has blown up the way that he has. When we dropped his pipe bomb last year, and really kind of did a bit of a work shoot. But that's really where his steam really started, was when he dropped the curtain and kind of just went straight ahead and gave a more realistic view of what was going on. And I think people really, really like that versus, a straight, pre-scripted character.
I think you're right, and it gave him an opportunity to go out and be himself. And that's listen, you can't, there's only certain parts in life that you can play and make them play well. You kind of have to be that character. No, I don't walk around the streets with a jumpsuit on by any means. And Hogan, no matter where he goes, he's going to be recognized. So he is that character. And I am that Honky Tonk Man character. That it's easy for me to do that. And for some guys, if you try to script them, they can't be scripted. And but there again, Santino Marella, I'll go back to him. I think he is an absolute fantastic talent. Not only that, but he can take 3 or 4 pages of script that they give him and go out and deliver it very well. I could not do that. He is much more talented at script reading and remembering 4 pages of dialogue than I could ever do. But yes, I think if you give a guy an opportunity, and the ones that really get the opportunity, look, when Rock came back, Rock comes back and Rock goes out, they didn't script him. Rock goes out and does his interview the way the Rock wants to do it. And that's why he got all the cheers. And then, you got I'm sure John Cena gets to do his interviews the way he wants to do them. But I still think some of his stuff is way too scripted. I can tell that he's not really in his element, and he's not that comfortable delivering some of the lines that he has to deliver. And then you got Stone Cold, who's going to go out. He's not going to be scripted, and he's going to say whatever he wants to, and so does Shawn, and so does Triple H, and so does Vince. Vince is the best in the world. He's the best bad guy of all time because he can just strut out there and say whatever he wants.
True. So true. Obviously, WWE was where we mainly know you from. Was there somebody in the days that you were there that you didn't feud with that you would have loved to?
Yeah, brother. I was your brother.
So Ric Flair then? Okay.
Hey, brother. Woo! I would care less about having a match with him. No, I missed that Hogan deal because I was the Intercontinental Champion, and they never put us together. I think I had 1 tag match and 2 single matches with Hogan, and that was pretty much it. But back then, and I know you guys will think, and a lot of the fans will think that I'm making this all up and it's all baloney, but I can tell you, to have a 6-month, 8-month, a year run with Hogan, you're talking $10,000, $15,000 a day, and we were working 9 shows a week, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. You're talking about making $100,000 a week if you were wrestling this guy. I'm serious. I mean, I worked with Bruno in Madison Square Garden, and because he filled in for Jake the Snake, we sold the garden out. It was sold out. I made $10,000 for that one match. Now, if you're with Hogan, that was every night. It was sold out. Every match was sold out. So you're making $8, $10, $12, $15,000 a match. You know, and to be against Hogan at a WrestleMania, you're talking at least $1 million, $2 million. Hogan was making $5, $6 million per WrestleMania.
Oh man!
I mean, it was these kids today. They talk about, oh, we outdrew these guys, we outdrew this, and I went back and I found a video on YouTube of myself against Bruno in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, and I posted it on my Facebook page, and my son came down and he was watching with me. He says, "Dang, Dad, look at that crowd of people." There were so many people in the Spectrum that night for Bruno to go. I mean, they knew Bruno was going to destroy me and win the belt. And the place was turn-away crowd. It was so packed with people. And these kids today say, oh, well, we outdraw them guys. They never did what we... No, they have better marketability now because all their products are in every store. Listen, you couldn't buy a Hulk Hogan T-shirt unless you bought it at the arena or you ordered it out of the magazine. Can you imagine the money Hogan and those guys and Jake and Steamboat and Piper they would have made if Kmart, Walmart, Target, and all these places had their T-shirts and merchandise?
It's nice to hear you say that about the Spectrum, because that's where I'm from. I'm actually about 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia, right over the bridge there. And I mean, just to hear someone that has performed in that venue, what is, I mean, for the most part, we're pretty much the most rabid fan base for pretty much anything. What was your experience with the crowd here in Philadelphia? I mean, it was so sad to see that. You know, I've seen so many shows within that building. To see it come down last year, and now they have like a bunch of bars there and whatnot. But what was your recollection and some of your experiences performing inside that building?
Oh, it was a great venue. It was you know, other than Madison Square Garden, but the old Boston Garden, the Philadelphia Spectrum, it was we were there once a month all the time. I mean, and the fans. I was never in the Spectrum that it wasn't sold out, or at least maybe 1,000 tickets less than the sellout, but. Other than that building was sold out every time we went there, and the fans in the Philadelphia area, they loved their wrestling. I mean, they loved it. That's obviously why ECW started there and did very well in the Philadelphia area, because that's a really good fan base. But the Spectrum, that building itself, it was made for a wrestling event. I mean, it was. They had the light hanging from the top of the ceiling down over top of the ring, and everything else was dark in there, and the fans just were, I mean, they weren't mean. They were just really, really good fans that loved good action and loved to hate the bad guys, and they loved the good guys.
Yeah, we're just a rabid fan base, and it's for everything. And the way that the Spectrum was set up, instead of being like these wider bowl-shaped venues that you have now, the seats were right on top of each other, and it almost went like straight up in the air. So the acoustics in that building, it would just always be so loud. And I always wanted to hear from a performer what it was like to actually, because I know as a fan, spending so many nights at so many different events in that building, what it sounds like for us. And just you could get that building so loud that it would just literally, you could feel the building shaking.
Yes.
What
yes.
it was like to have somebody perform in that building and hear kind of what their recollections was.
Well, that's you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the acoustics of the building, and the old Boston Garden was the same way. Madison Square Garden has the acoustic type effect the same way, And I remember when I first came into the WWE and WWF, and I came out of Calgary, and we had a big show at the Calgary Stampede at the big Saddle Dome. It seats 20-something thousand, but it's made for hockey. It's a hockey arena. Like you said, one of those oval-shaped type things. And it was sold out. Hulk Hogan was on the card, Big John Studd, Andre the Giant. All the big stars were there. And I happened to get on the card because I was working for Bret Hart's daddy, Stu. Stu Hart. And but Stu got me on the card, and that's where I met up with Hogan again after all those years. I had not seen him in like 10 years. But the acoustics were totally different, and they're not the same now, even in any of these new buildings. And I know the Rolling Stones played a concert here at the big football stadium in Phoenix, and I guess people were complaining because there were the echo and the bounce back off of the building was terrible. But a place like the Spectrum, it was you're right. It was when I heard this noise the first time I was there, and in Hartford Civic Center and places like that on the East Coast, it was nerve-wracking. It was like, man, I'm scared. I'm afraid to go out there. This is so loud. I mean, it was so loud. And when Hogan came out and the music played, it was just, you couldn't talk to anyone. It was so loud. Even backstage, you could hear it. It was loud.
Brilliant. Would you feel that obviously you were performing towards 93,000 at WrestleMania 3?
Now,
was that just as loud, if not louder, for you then?
No, it was totally different because of the way that building was designed, and of course it had that prefab roof on it type thing where sunlight could come through the roof, and the acoustics in that building was terrible. We actually we didn't really hear the people. I mean, you really could not hear them that much at all, even though they were making noise. And if you look at it back on video, you could hear it. But as far as us, other than going to the ring, you could hear the noise. But once we were in the ring, we really didn't hear the people.
Okay. Obviously, you were mentioning earlier on that you do a lot of conventions now with other legends. So how does it feel to still be appreciated so many years on by your loyal fans?
That's what keeps me going. It gives me that drive to keep going because every independent show I do is different. I meet so many young, aspiring boys and girls that want to be in the wrestling business, and that's their training ground, so to speak, and the fan base out on the independent shows and doing these comic book conventions and all these autograph signings and legend stuff. I stayed away from all of that legend stuff until my action figure came out, and I said, well, heck, I might as well go do this now. I didn't want to be associated with a bunch of old-timers, but now it's not old-timers that do these conventions and signings, and the fans are really, really great. They, a lot of them come up and go, gosh, man, we can't believe it. You still look the same, and man, where have you been? The fans sometimes don't understand. Just because you're not on TV doesn't mean you're in the grave. I mean, I do 50 events a year. I do as much as the WWE guys do. I'm sure. Would I like to be back there drawing a steady paycheck? Of course. Could I work in the ring? Could I work in the ring with those guys? Well, I couldn't do that kind of nonsense they do. Put me in a match with Lawler or somebody, and we could probably tear the building down because we worked that old style, old school type stuff. And it's believe me, no matter where I go around the world and do these old school matches that I do, I know I get criticized a lot of times. Hey, Honky Tonk Man, he don't want to do this, he don't want to do that. Well, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I'm not going to let you pick me up and throw me around like a sack of potatoes. And sometimes the rings aren't that good, and maybe I've had a long trip, and I don't feel like you doing anything other than take my arm. And one night I told a kid, take my arm, and he didn't do it, and I had to beat him up. And I I go back to the locker room. I said, "Why didn't you take my arm?" He said, "I didn't know what you meant." I said, "Heck, I don't care. Take it to the bus station. Just take it. Take my arm. Do something, But and I don't like to, rehearse my match. And the one thing I despise in the locker room is when 10 guys are in there and they're all picking each other up and they're running against the wall and practicing whatever they're going to be doing. It's the most nonsense I've ever seen in my life. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to go over it. They're picking each other up, and I'm saying, "Hey, man, get away from me. Don't, Man, they're doing spinneronis on each other's heads in the locker room. It's like, come on." And then they come back. I'm not being critical of them. It's positive criticism. They come back to the locker room and they go, "Oh wow, man, we really hit that hurricane." I don't even know what it's called. I call it a 6-pack of Coronas, but that happens to be that's a beverage over here, Chris.
Okay.
Yes, it's a beer. It's Corona, 6-pack of Corona. They call it a Coronas or something. I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, yeah, man, we really hit that spot. We really did this. Man, that was good. We did it. One night I said, "What about the fans?" What about the fans? How did the fans react to that? "Oh, I don't know. We weren't listening to them." Oh, so what you did is go out and have a match for yourself. You don't care about the fans. I mean, that's what it is. They go out and have a match for themselves, and they could care less that the fans react. My whole thing is, look, if I'm doing something and I'm not getting a reaction from what I'm doing, then I want to switch it because I want fan involvement. I want the people to say, "I was entertained, I had fun, I enjoyed that match." That's what our business is about, is entertaining the fans so that the next time they will go tell their neighbor, and their neighbor will tell someone, and they'll all load up in the car, and you got double the amount of crowd. I don't get these young kids. I don't know. They all want to be TV stars. It's like the divas. Don't even get me started on the divas.
We'll have to now that you said that.
So is that what you're tending to see? As a lot of guys are more worried about, hitting spots and being spot monkeys, as opposed to going into a ring, two guys telling a story and really performing theater the way that you guys used to do 20 years ago?
Absolutely, you're right, and I'm glad you use that terminology, spot monkeys, because, in fact, that's what it is. It's all just a bunch of spots put together. That, of course, yeah. If you do a off the top spinning 6-pack of Corona on 4 guys, sure, the people are going to yell and the people are going to scream, but it doesn't mean that they're going to remember that match, or they're going to say, "Man, that guy was so mean and hateful. I wanted to kill him, and I'm so glad Honky Tonk Man beat that guy." And it's some of the guys I have to go out and wrestle. I can't. I put a match together that I know will entertain the fans, and sometimes the kids that I go out and wrestle, they don't even. They're not listening to the fans. They forget half the stuff. And I try to tell them it's very simple. It's something that's going to make the fans remember you. It's something that the fans will go home and say, "We had a great time." But, yeah, you're right. Just go put spots together, and then they always got their girlfriend or their mom or their dad videotaping it, so that I guess what they do is on Sunday afternoon they all get together at Sunday dinner and watch their match.
Mike, what's your final question for this gentleman?
We had an episode a couple episodes back about entrance musics, and you're one of the few superstars that provided their own lyrics to their own entrance music, and to me, it made it one of the most memorable themes of all time. Whose idea was it for you to do that? How did that come to be, since it was so out of the norm?
The entrance music kind of started with the Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, the Freebirds. They were the first guys, I think, that started having entrance music. I know Lawler had some in Memphis years ago, and of course Jimmy Valiant when he was there. Jimmy Hart was kind of the instigator, and because he came from music and from the nightclub business, performing. He introduced the video packages with music behind them down in Memphis that got over very well, and then they took that idea from him and did it in Atlanta. Then they did it in Texas, and then they did it in Florida, and pretty soon it caught on. When I first started in the business for the first 5 years or so, there was no such thing as entrance music. I mean, they rang the bell and you walked out and they introduced you. So, I mean, to me, it's an enhancement. It's better for the crowd to hear the music. But Jimmy wrote the song. Jimmy wrote the lyrics for me, and it kind of fit in with my character. And it's a catchy tune. I mean, it's a bubblegum song, He's Honky Tonk Man, just Honky Tonk Man, he's Honky Tonk Man, he too, he got it bad. But, I have fun with it, and the fans have fun with it, and a lot of times I go and wrestle, and guys will go, all week long we've been playing that song on our DVD, on our iPod, when we were driving down here today. We can't get that song out of our head. It's a catchy little tune, and it's got some really good music behind it, and it's been good for me. I've enjoyed it. It's like I said, I wasn't in WCW long enough to learn the words to that song, so I never sing it. and I was one of the few guys. In fact, I might have been the only guy that actually sang. I mean, I sang the song myself. It's me singing it. It's not someone else.
Okay, brilliant. Sir, just thank you so much. The floor is yours. Make sure you promote anything you're doing with your stand about your podcast. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, just on behalf of Mike and myself, just thank you so much for coming on. And as I said, the floor is yours to promote your wares, as it was, sir.
Well, I don't really have anything to promote. The fans know how to find me. I've got the Facebook thing going, the Twitter thing, and we got a shop zone at the website, honkytonkman.net, and I got my eBay stuff on eBay, and then I go out and I do my wrestling shows. This weekend I'm out to Minnesota for Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff. We have a one afternoon show at a festival or something of that nature. Then next weekend I'm going down to Mobile, Alabama, to Sims, Alabama, just out of Mobile. Last weekend I was over in, I had a hard job. I was at a stripper club, and we did topless Jello wrestling, and I was the MC for topless Jello wrestling last week in Richmond, Virginia. So I do a multitude of things. I don't call myself multi-talented by any means, but hey, if there's $1 to be made out there, I want it. I stole that from King Kong Bundy. He said, if there's $1 in this building, I want it.
That is fantastic. Well,
I've had a great time with you guys. I'm glad you had me on, and I'm sure that some other places will pick this up and run it. And, of course, the Internet people will be taking little tidbits off of it and making whatever they want out of it. So, but it's been a great interview. You guys have been wonderful, and it's like I said, you couldn't ask me a question I couldn't answer honestly this time. I did tell the truth.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll just leave it there. I couldn't really sum it up better than that. So just thank you very much for Honky Tonk Man, ladies and gentlemen, on Wrestleshock. Had a great time. Hopefully he did as well. So stay tuned for more Wrestleshock winging your way.